The Most High Spirit, he gathered these words. Get chapter 41, verse 21 through 22.
Isaiah 41, verse 21. Produce your cause, said the Lord.
That's the biggest thing when dealing with the Bible and dealing with other books. Produce your cause. Read on.
Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, said the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth and show us what shall happen. Let them show the former things what they be, that we may consider them and know the latter of them, or declare us things for to come.
And that's what the Most High always says. Look, let them, if you believe that's your God or that's your book, let them bring forth prophecies. Let them deal with what is to come. Let them tell us what's going to happen, because the Most High has always done that. Let's go ahead and let's get Daniel chapter 7 and read verse 2 through 3.
Daniel 7, verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strong upon the great sea, strove upon the great sea.
So here it is. Now, is this literally what's going on? Is the wind really striving across the sea and all these different things? No, it's a similitude. He's seeing a vision. Something similar in regards to it. Read on.
And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
And he saw four great beasts come up from the sea, diverse, different, one from the other. Go ahead, let's get 7 and 17. What do these four beasts represent? Get Daniel chapter 7 and read verse 17.
The great beasts, which are four kings.
So it says, these great beasts, which are four kings. And when you're dealing with kings, it's synonymous to rulership. You're dealing with the kingdom. Kings rule over kingdoms. So it said, look, these four beasts, these are representing four kingdoms that are going to rule upon the face of the earth. And on each one of these is going to rule one after the other. All right? Go ahead and get Daniel chapter 2 and verse 21.
Daniel 2, verse 21. And he changeth the time and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings.
He does what?
He removeth kings and setteth up kings.
So the Most High removes kings and he sets up kings. The Most High, he controls everything. He does the good, the bad, the evil, the ugly. Everything is all orchestrated by the Most High. So he's saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these particular rulers in place for a season. Each one is going to rule at their particular time. And then afterwards, they're all going to be removed out of power. And then our kingdom, my kingdom, is going to be the final one established upon this earth, because I'm going to bring all of them out of kingdom. So get 2 Ezra chapter 11 and verse 39. Yes, your 2 Ezra chapter 11 and verse 39.
Art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts?
So even this is going back to those four beasts. There's one that remains. He says, look, art thou that remainest of the four beasts? Read on.
Whom I made to reign in my world.
Whom what?
Whom I made to reign in my world.
So the Most High, he made these nations. He said, look, I made you to reign in my world for a particular season, reason, and purpose. But guess what? Your rulership is over, because I allotted it for a set period of time that you're not going to go past. So go ahead.
That the end of their times might come through them.
Because at the end of their times will come through them, because the Most High put everything, he put his time stamp on everything. It's for a set period of time. Get Daniel 7 and 3.
Book of Daniel 7, verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
So these four great beasts are four kings. And even with this, these same beasts also represent what you also find, get Daniel 2 and 1, because this is synonymous. The vision that you're reading about here with these four great beasts is very similar, and it's the exact replica of the same vision of the statue that you read about in Daniel chapter 2.
Daniel 2 and verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him.
So he had a dream too. Get 31 and read verse 31 through 33.
Daniel 2, verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image.
So this image is what Nebuchadnezzar saw, who was one of the kings of the Babylonian captivity. Read on.
This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay.
So Nebuchadnezzar, and get Daniel chapter 2, read 34 and 35. Because Nebuchadnezzar, he was that head. In the same way, going back with the four beasts in Daniel chapter 7, he's that first one. Read that. Daniel chapter 2, verse 34 and 35.
Thou sawest till that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broke to pieces together, and became like the shaft of the summer, thresh hind floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and that the stone was smote, the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
Because it deals with the different portions of this particular statue, represent the different rulerships of each king, until finally that kingdom is destroyed, and then the Most High is the one that now finally reigns instead. So now let's get Daniel chapter 7 and verse 4.
Daniel 7 and verse 4. The first was like a lion.
Like a what?
Like a lion.
So it said the first was like a lion, read.
And had eagle wings.
And had eagle's wings, read.
Had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings therefore were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand up, Salakia, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
So why a lion, and why did it have eagle's wings? Let's go ahead and get Jeremiah 4 and 7. So we're going to come back to Daniel. That's the main chapter we're going to be in. But each one of these, I'm going to break down part by part, piece by piece. So let's get why lion and why eagle. Get Jeremiah 4 and 7.
Book of Jeremiah 4, verse 7. The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant.
Because what is a lion known for? A lion is a very fierce animal. A lion is an animal you do not want to deal with. It's very powerful. It's very cunning. So it's an aspect where, and even in this case, it's dealing with Babylon. Babylon is likened unto a lion when you also read in the scriptures concerning Babylon. He likes it unto a lion, that he's going to come forth and be a destroyer unto the Gentiles, because that's what a lion does. It destroys. It tears. So get 2 Samuel 1 and 23. Read 2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 23.
2 Samuel 1, verse 23.
Read that.
Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles.
So one thing it gives with the description of an eagle is swiftness. So why did this beast or this lion have wings of eagle? Dealing with how swift this particular kingdom came into power. That's one thing. So because with wings, it allows for swiftness. Read on.
They were stronger than lions.
And then with that lion represents strength. This is a powerful empire. Just like a lion is a powerful animal, this is a powerful empire we're dealing with. So go ahead and get Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 1 through 4. And now we're going to go back to an actual reference dealing with Babylon. Get Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 1 through 4.
Ezekiel 17, verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, put forth a riddle, and speak a parable unto the house of Israel.
So the Most High, he loves his riddles, he loves his parables, he loves his similitudes. Read on.
And say, Thus saith the Lord, power. A great eagle with great wings, long-winded, full of feathers, which had diverse colors, came unto Lebanon, and took the highest branch of the cedar.
Because we're also going to get more as to why an eagle is being used. Why does it have wings of an eagle? What did that allow that particular animal to do? Read on.
He cropped off the top of his young twigs and carried it into a land of traffic. He set it in a city of merchants.
Because when you deal with how an eagle can move, an eagle can just, if it wants something, it can just swoop down and grab it, right? You ever see those nature commercial, Animal Planet, when that hawk or that eagle, it sees that rat or that snake, it just comes, it just take them off. That's the same way it's dealing with this particular kingdom. It wants something, it sees it, and with the strength of a lion, it swoops down and gets it with the wings of an eagle. That's what you're dealing with this particular kingdom. That's the type of power that they had. I want it, I got it, what you gonna do about it? You can't stop me. Go ahead and get 11 through 12.
11?
It's same chapter. Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 11 to 12.
Verse 11. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Say now to the rebellious house, know ye not what these things mean?
So the Most High is saying, look, you don't know what these things mean. You don't know the similitude, and you can read the whole chapter to get the similitude on your own, but you don't know this whole similitude that I'm giving to you right now? Read on.
Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon
The king of who?
The king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem.
Read.
And have taken
And
the
hath
king,
what?
Hath taken the king thereof.
See that? All these similitudes, it was all referencing the kingdom of Babylon, both with the first reference we read with the lion, not the second one, that was Saul and Jonathan, but want to give you a particular understanding from that one, and also the second one we're reading right now as far as dealing with the eagle. So Babylon is likened unto that lion and that eagle, both with that power of a lion and also with the ferociousness and swiftness in the attitude of taking what I want as an eagle. All right, so imagine you combine those two animals together, and that's what it's dealing with. That's the fierceness you have, but in the similitude of a kingdom. You get me? So go ahead without all of that in 12. Go ahead and finish that.
And the princes thereof, and let them with him to Babylon.
So see that? He said, look, I'm going in Jerusalem. I'm taking their kings. I'm taking their princes. I'm taking their women and kids. They come with me to my kingdom. So that's what he is, just like an eagle, just like that bird of prey. Go back to Daniel chapter 7. But get Obadiah and read verse 3 through 4. Because why did it say lift it up? As far as when you read back in Daniel, as far as he would lift it up. Get Obadiah verse 3 through 4. And while he gets that, I'll read it again. It says, Behold, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So let's see, why was it lifted up? In what manner was it lifted up? Go ahead and get Obadiah 3 through 4.
The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee.
The what?
The pride of thine heart.
That's how they got lifted up, through their pride. That's how they were lifted up. Their ego, they were puffed up. Read on.
Thou hast dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high.
Because his habitation, his mindset was very high-minded when you're dealing with the Babylonian kingdom, all right? They were very high-minded. They were prideful. Read on.
That saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
And of course, with that, well, who's going to stop me? Who has the power to come against me? No different than the ideology of America, which we're dealing with when we're dealing with Esau. He's a very prideful individual. Without all that, with all the four?
Nah, 4 right here.
Continue on.
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle.
Though thou do what?
Exalt thyself as the eagle.
Exalt thyself as the eagle, because even how eagle likes to soar, and it does soar above all other birds. It's the top notch. I'm the highest there is. Who's going to come against me? That pigeon show ain't. So, and that's how it is in the same way with this kingdom. Esau sees us, and just as many other nations and kingdoms have, we just pigeons. What you going to do against me? And even then, we take on the same mindset, like, man, I'm just a pigeon. What am I going to do against that eagle? I can't take them. But the aspect where they let their pride become the downfall, and that's what it deals with, they're being lifted up. With all of that?
No.
All right, continue.
And though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down.
And the Most High is always going to be the one to bring them down. Get Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 14.
Isaiah 14, verse 14.
Read.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
And that's also what comes about with being high-minded. You want to be like God. So, which we're going to get, that he wants to be like God. I have power over life and death. I choose. If I want you dead, yeah, bring him here. Put him to death. I can do that. That's God-like power. You know what? Nah, let him live. Let him go free. I adjure him. I pardon him of all his iniquitous sins. He's good. Let him free. Let her go. Put him to death. God-like power. So I will be like God. I will be like the Most High. I stand in a situation of judgment. I cast all judgment. However, I feel suit. So that's also what you're dealing with. Get Daniel chapter 5, verse 18 through 19. Because these things was also revealed unto him. Get Daniel chapter 5, read verse 18 through 19.
Daniel 5, verse 18. O thou king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor.
So Daniel's breaking it down to him. He's like, look, Belshazzar, look, I honor you. Only because of the fact you're in power. Not as a man, because the Most High has some problem with you. The Most High, he put your father in power. He gave him a kingdom, gave him majesty. Read on.
And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages tremble and fear before him.
Read on, because this is what he's dealing with. This is going back to that God-like aspect. Read.
Whom he would, he slew.
See that? Whom he would, he slew. He put to death. Read on.
And whom he would, he kept alive.
So you see, that's that pride. Whom he would, he kept alive. Whom he would, he slew. Read.
And whom he would, he set up. And whom he would, he put down.
Right, because even as you read in the scripture, the Most High is the one. He sets up kings and bring down kings. He sets up rulers and things of that nature. So, but it's an aspect with this kingdom, the kings takes it upon themselves to set up who I will and who I won't. Read on. That was in 19. Read 22 through 23.
Verse 22. And thou his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled thine heart.
Has not what?
Humble thine heart.
See that? He didn't humble himself. Lift it up. Read.
Though thou knewest all this.
He said, though thou knewest all this. Though you knew this, you still ain't humble yourself. You still walk in that pride and arrogance that I'm going to do what I want because I'm king. I rule this. So go ahead.
Though thou knewest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven.
So see that? Lifted up himself against the Lord of heaven. So read on.
And they have brought the vessels of his house before thee. And thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver, and gold, and brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, hear not, nor know. And the Most High, in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, thy ways hast thou not glorified.
And you haven't glorified the Most High. So go ahead now. Why is the other part? Get Daniel 5 and 7. Why does it say a man's heart? Like we read in Daniel as far as the man's heart. I'll read it again. So it says, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Let's get that aspect. Get Daniel 5 and 7. And then we're going to go 11 through 12. Read Daniel 5 and 7, and then 11 to 12.
Daniel 5, verse 7. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon.
Said to the who?
The wise men of Babylon.
The wise men of Babylon. The Chaldeans were known as the Babylonians. All right. So when you see references of the Chaldeans or the Chaldee, that's referencing to the Babylonians. All right. He brought in his astrologers, his soothsayers, his magicians, all of his wise men. Because when it deals with a man's heart, it's not dealing with what we think here, it's dealing with here. A man's heart being a man's mind. And what is the biggest thing with man? Man is with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So it's dealing with that a man's heart was given to it, that man's wisdom, understanding, and knowledge was given unto him. All right? That's what you're dealing with. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So, without all that, 7?
Nah.
All right, read on.
Whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom.
Read verse 11 through 12. So because it's an aspect where they prided themselves, they being the Babylonians, prided themselves on wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So they were very wise. as a people, as a kingdom. Read on.
Verse 11. There is a man in thy kingdom, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods.
So even when this is breaking down, when they're looking at Daniel, what is the key thing that they're focusing on? He's just wise. It's like he got the wisdom of the gods on him. You know, this is what they prided themselves on. So all the people that the king had by his side, all his counselors, they had to be very, very wise, men of understanding. That's what they prided themselves on, and that's what allowed Daniel to be uplifted in that kingdom, because the Most High had bestowed upon him above other prophets at that time, like the three holy children, Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, right? So Meshach, Shadrach, and a bad Negro, as my elder says. So because the aspect where, but Daniel was the one who the Most High gave the more bulk of the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom unto, because even though you can have prophets, not all prophets are created equal. The Most High delivers how much he gives unto each man. You know, I'm going to make this one, yeah, he'd be good, but this one will be a little greater in these areas, all right, because I'm dealing with him a little more, all right? So go ahead.
Like the wisdom of the gods was found in him, who the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, the king, I say, thy father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers.
So above all the magicians, all the soothsayers, all the diviners, and, you know, all those wise men, Daniel was made head of all of them. All right, our forefather was made head of all of them, because the Most High is the one, he gives wisdom. He said, look, my wisdom going to trump all that. You know, my people going to be on top. All right, so read on, verse 12.
For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and the solving of doubts.
Because all these things, all these prophecies, these are hard sentences. These are hard understandings. What does this mean? Why is it a lion and wings? And I thought we talking about a man or a kingdom. Well, why all this? And what does this mean? These are all dark sentences, which Daniel, the Most High, gave him the understanding of what these things were. Read on.
Were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation.
Right. Get Jeremiah 50 and 8.
Book of Jeremiah 50, verse 8. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks.
Right. Just like I did, remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, because Babylon, and when you're dealing with the Chaldeans, you deal with the Babylonians. So that's the reference, or another reference for that. All right. So let's go from there. Let's get Daniel chapter 2, verse 36. Read 36 to 38 real quick.
Daniel 2, verse 36. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the Most High of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them. Thou art his head of gold.
So he's also the head of gold. This lion is also synonymous to this head of gold that you read in Daniel chapter 2. So now let's go ahead and let's get, now when you look at the Babylonian Empire, Jake should be going to the slides. Yeah. So get so now when you look at the Babylonian Empire, this was the not the full extent of it, this is the mass majority of the extent of it, all right, with this particular image, okay? So it's an aspect where this is pretty much what you're dealing with, but you can barely see it pretty much. It's hard to see the color contrast a little bit, but when you see Iraq, modern day Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, the northern portion of it, this is where the Babylonians were ruling, where they had power, all right? So the mass majority of the Babylonian Empire was east of Israel, all right? So primarily located in the Iraq region, also Saudi Arabia and Syria, all right? So now let's get the next one. Let's get Daniel 7 and 5, all right?
The book of Daniel 7. Verse 5. And behold, another beast.
So now we're dealing with another beast. This other beast is what? The kingdom. Go ahead, read.
A second, like to a bear.
Now this second one is like to a bear, though. This one's likened to a bear. Read.
And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Right. Get Daniel chapter 2 and verse 39. So let's see what this is talking about. Get Daniel chapter 2 and verse 39.
And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third.
So it's an aspect which said, another kingdom, after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. There's a reason why this kingdom is inferior. Get Daniel chapter 8 and verse 3, even though it took him out of power. Because this kingdom was a joint kingdom. Get Daniel chapter 8 and verse 3, because they couldn't do it alone. They had to come together. So get Daniel chapter 8 and verse 3.
Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
So this is the same particular kingdom we're dealing with that's also likened to a bear. The ram, one horn was up, but one was a little higher than the other one. It's dealing with 2 kingdoms. And that one kingdom was a little more powerful than the other kingdom, but it's still a joint kingdom. This ram is one animal, but it's dealing with the rulership. One had a little more power than the other one. So it's dealing with the Persian and Mede captivity. Get verse 20.
Daniel 8, verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
So the Medes and the Persians formed a joint empire, which is what made them weaker than the Babylonians, because one couldn't do it alone. It had to take 2 kingdoms to come together to take the Babylonians out of power. All right, makes sense? And that's why one horn was higher than the other, because it's an aspect where they weren't 100% equal. So one kingdom was stronger than the other. The Persians had more leverage than the Medes. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go back to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 5. Why is it likened to a bear? Because once again, we're dealing with a large kingdom. All right. Read Daniel 7 and 5.
And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear.
Likened to a bear, could deal with a large kingdom. Persia being significantly larger than Media. All right. Because we'll get it, when you look at the Persian Empire, they had a lot more landmass. Okay. And we're going to cover that a little more, because it's an aspect where you see how they went into, at least on this particular map, you see more. They went up into Turkey. They went over into Egypt. They also went over into Iran, modern day Turkey, Iran, and Egypt. All right, so these are the areas that they conquered. And what also, when you deal with, as far as when it says 7 and verse 5, when it says another beast, a second like to it, as far as it was so big, because it was also the first empire to control such a vast landmass. That's why, because once again, a bear is a very large animal. And why would the Most High liken in this kingdom to a large animal? Because of the fact of how much territory they had conquered. All right. So they were the first empire to control such a vast landmass. They controlled from Asia to Europe to Africa, because this is also why it had the 3 ribs in its mouth. So go ahead. Let's get the next part. So continuing verse 5 again.
Like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side.
Raising up itself on one side, because one kingdom was larger than the other. All right. That's why I brought out the ram with the 2 horns. And it had 3 ribs in his mouth, because like I dealt with in the previous slide, which I'm going to read again, was the aspect that it ruled from Europe to Asia to Africa. That's one aspect of it. The other one is, which I'm going to read right now, is that it says the Persians did not create the first empire in history, but they created one of the first and largest. They are important because they were the first people to unite 3 sites of early urban civilization: Nile Valley, Mesopotamia, and Indus Valley. All right, those are the key things. So I'm going to go back up to the slide. And so it said, get the laser pointer out. So you see the laser pointer? So Nile Valley is here. Mesopotamia is here, and the Indus region is down here. So these are the 3 that it also united within its empire. 1, 2, 3. All right. Everyone following? Good, good, good. Laser pointer off. So now, let's go ahead and let's get the next one. Go back to Daniel chapter 7.
Continue on 5.
Yeah, you continue in 5.
In the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
And arise and devour much flesh, it devoured much land, it conquered much land. All right? So let's get Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6. Read that.
After this I beheld, and lo, another, like unto a leopard.
So now this one is likened unto a leopard. All right? Read on.
Like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings. 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Let's get Daniel 2 and 39. So hold that. We're coming back there. Let's get Daniel 2 and 39.
And after these shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
So this third kingdom is that kingdom of brass, which is synonymous to that leopard. All right? So go ahead and get Habakkuk 1 and 8. Go to Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 8. So why are we dealing with a leopard? Why is the Most High likening this particular kingdom unto a leopard? All right?
1 and verse 8. Their horses also are swifter than the leopards.
Swifter than what?
Than the leopards.
So a leopard is a swift animal. All right? So it's a very swift animal. That's why the Most High is likening this particular kingdom unto a leopard, because of the swiftness of this particular kingdom. But not only was it swift like a leopard, instead of having 2 wings, it gave him 4. Gave him 4 wings. How quick was this animal? Very, very fast. Because when you're dealing with this particular kingdom, which is the Greeks, they came into power very fast, very swift. They were very strong. And just like we did with the eagle, taking what they want, this one took it to a whole nother level. I'm taking this. I'm conquering all of it. I'm taking this. I'm taking everything, but at a much faster rate. All right. So double what the lion was is now what the leopard is. So let's go ahead and continue that in Daniel. That's where we were, right? Oh, we're in Habakkuk 1 and 8. Oh, yeah. Finish Habakkuk 1 and 8.
Their horses also are swifter than leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from far. They shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. Because
that's the other thing. This kingdom, the Greeks, they were in a haste to conquer. Haste, because they did it in a very, very short time. You know, conquering kingdoms isn't something that just happens like year 1. It can take many years, even something that may not happen in a particular king's lifetime that his son or the next ruler may have to continue. It's an aspect where, Alexander the Greek, he did it in his time. He did it all in a short period of time. So let's go ahead, get on Hosea 13 and 7.
Book of Hosea 13 and verse 7. Therefore, I will be unto them as a lion, as a leopard by the way will I observe them.
That's the other aspect when you're dealing with a leopard. They're watched. They're very cunning. All right. And when you're dealing with Esau, he's a very cunning hunter. He watches. He observes. That's Big Brother. He does everything he can to make sure, look, I'm going to observe. And just like a leopard, I'm going to attack and pounce when the right moment is available, and I'm going for the kill. That's how he moves, all right, because they take on the nature of that animal as well. Get 2 Samuel 1 and 23.
Second Samuel 1, verse 23. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles.
So once again, dealing with that eagle, you're dealing with swift. Dealing with those wings, dealing with swift, like I was bringing out earlier. So now, these once again, this is parallel with Daniel's vision of the ram and the goat. All right, this is parallel with this. All right, So let's go ahead. Let's get Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 through 22.
Book of Daniel 8, verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
The king of who?
The king of Grecia.
So it's an aspect, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, but the rough goat is the king of Grecia, meaning the king of Greece. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, all right? So then it says, now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Let's get 1 Maccabees 1 and 1.
First Maccabees 1, verse 1. And it happened.
And it happened, what happened? The fulfilling of the prophecies that we read in the book of Daniel. All right, read on.
And it happened, after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who had came out of the land of Shittim, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians.
Has smitten who?
Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
So see that? That's that first horn it was dealing with. That Alexander the Great, who's Alexander the Greek, was that first horn, was that first king that we're dealing with. So you're seeing how these similitudes, how everything pieces together perfectly, how the Most High said it's going to happen. Like I dealt with earlier, the only thing that fails is our personal ability in seeking these things out and doing the research and putting two and two together, all right? Because we have the blessing to have all the history now before us to go back and reference. Even though when Daniel was getting these things didn't come to pass yet. So these things, the Most High said, look, write all these things, it's for the time to come. But it hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen, even though these things are happening hundreds of years down the line. So let's go ahead and let's get the next one. So this is a picture depicting his particular territory that he took over and he conquered. So he conquered a lot, right? So this is all he did in his lifetime. So when you're looking at other kingdoms, that was throughout that empire's lifetime. But this is all through Alexander's lifetime, the areas that he was going through conquering. So now you deal with why he was so swift, because the aspect where he did this very, very, very fast. Let's get 1 Maccabees chapter 1, get verse 2 and verse 3.
Verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds.
So we had many wars and many strongholds. So many wars, the battle of Issos, the battle of Granicus, the battle of Gaugamela. So many wars and won many strongholds. Read on.
And slew the kings of the earth.
Read.
And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
So get Daniel 8 and 22. Let's get that. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 22.
Verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but now not in his power.
So that first horn represented who? Alexander the Great, Alexander the Greek. Now that one being broken, because what happened? Alexander died, four more were going to stand up in his place. Get 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 7 through 9.
First Maccabees 1, verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died.
So he reigned 12 years. He started ruling very, very young, all right? So I want to say, what, he was 20 or 21 when he started ruling, when he was doing all of this. So he reigned 12 years and then he died. So continue on.
And his servants bear rule, every one in his place.
So his servants bear rule after him. Read on.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth.
Mm-hmm. So now, and this is it when dealing with those rulers. And may you read that out?
When he was asked who should succeed him, Alexander said, the strongest, which answer led to his empire being divided between 4 of his generals, Cassander, Ptolemy, Antiochus, and Seleucus, known as the Diadochi or successors. Their influence over the regions they controlled created what historians refer to as the Hellenistic period, in which Greek thought and culture became entwined with that of the indigenous populace.
Right, and that's from www.ancient.eu/Alexander the Great. All right, so even though now, one may say, well, I see Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus there, but it's an aspect where these the 4 that were necessarily being mentioned. Because when you see pictures showing the maps and the areas, you see 5 there. You see Antigonus, Seleucus, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Why is that? But the Bible said there was 4, but here I see 5. Is that a problem? For some, right? Let's get why. Because the Bible, it says 4, and the Most High says 4 for a reason. Because let's get it. Let's get the history of what happened and why the Most High says 4. Because Lysimachus took Antigonus out of power. That's what happened. So he got murked off, and there was 4. So there was 5 for a very short time until he got murked off, and there was 4. All right, that's how that happened. So these are dealing with the wars of the Diadochi, or the successors. So read on. Yeah, read that.
Like many other commanders, Lysimachus assumed the title of king in 305 BCE. With the memory of Antiochus' recent attack fresh in his memory, the king set his expansion sights on Asia Minor. He allied with Seleucus and Cassander against the elderly Antigonus and his son Demetrius at the Battle of Ipsus in 301 BCE, a battle that would bring about both the defeat and the death of Antigonus. According to the terms of peace, Lysimachus was rewarded with additional lands in Asia Minor to the south of the Taurus Mountains. Seleucus additional lands in Asia, Seleucus received Syria, and Cassander's position was established securely in Macedon and Greece. According to many historians, the battle put an end to any hope of reestablishing Alexander's empire.
Right, because it was split, like we read in 1 Maccabees, that it was split amongst them. So that's why when you go ahead and you look at the map, and although you see in the upper northern area, and you also see where you had Antigonus, he controlled a lot of Asia Minor over there. Actually, you know what? Sorry, my apologies, laser pointer. So Antigonus controlled a lot of this area here in Asia Minor, but once again, Lysimachus, who at first, you had Lysimachus, who was actually up here in the green in Thrace, and then you also had you had Cassander, who's also here in the pink. They helped take out Antigonus from this land here in Asia Minor, all right? And that's how Lysimachus' territory stretched down further into here, and that's how there became 4, all right? Let's go ahead and let's continue on. Let me put the PowerPointer away. Get Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7.
The book of Daniel 7, verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly.
So this 4th beast, all these pictures are all synonymous. It's talking about the same kingdom. All right, but in so many different ways. This 4th beast is the same one you read about in Daniel chapter 7, the same one you read about in Daniel chapter 2, same one you read about in Revelation 12, same one you read about in Revelation 13. It just all same one we read when we went to 2nd Ezra, chapter 11. It's the same kingdom that's being spoken of in just in so many different ways. All right, so it's the same kingdom. With all that in Daniel 7 and 7. Continue.
It's strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns.
Your 2nd Ezra 11, 39 through 40.
2 Esdras 11, verse 39. Are not thou it that remaineth of the four beasts?
So that's what the Most High is saying. He said, look, ain't you the last one that remained out of the four beasts? Read on.
Whom I made to reign in my world.
Whom I made to reign in my world. Read on.
That the end of their times might come through them.
So he said, look, that the end of their times might come through them. Read on.
And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness.
And that's what we're dealing with. That fourth beast, that fourth kingdom, he came and he had power over the world. So because at first, that fourth beast started with Rome, all right? But that kingdom continues because it's an aspect where it ends with America. So this is all dealing with that fourth beast. That's why it's dreadful and it's terrible. So read on.
And had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression.
With much wicked oppression. Read on.
And so long time.
And so what?
And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit.
And that's why it says with so long time, because from the Romans, Esau, from the Roman period up until now, it said, man, this dude, when is he going to come out of power? You know, he had a brief time, that millennial reign, that 1,000-year reign, had a little bit of peace, and he came right back into power. Rome, he was in power, taken out of power around, about 426 AD, and then back into power about 1426 AD, somewhere around there. But an aspect where that was that millennial reign, that brief peaceful period when he was in the Caucasus Mountains. He was that caveman dwelling in caves, and we was ruling. All right. So that brief period. But other than that, he's been in power from the Roman period up until this point in time. He's been the one with such a long period of reign upon the earth, ruling it in wickedness and deceit. Get Daniel 7, 15 through 26.
The book of Daniel 7 and 15. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me known the interpretation of the things. These are great beasts, which are four. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth.
Read on.
Slakia.
Going down to 26.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Because that's what he's telling them, that, look, we're going to take this kingdom away from this particular beast. We're going to take this kingdom that America has even now, that Esau's ruling over, and we're going to take it, and it's going to be given back into the hands of the children of Israel, and the Most High is going to be the one ruling over us while we're ruling over the nations. That's what's going to happen. Read on.
Then I will know the truth of the four beasts.
It said, then I would know the truth of this fourth beast. Read on.
Of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devour, break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld in the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus said the fourth beast, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall thread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
Right. Get Daniel chapter 2, 40 through 44. We're going to come back to some of those points. Get Daniel chapter 2, verse 40 through 44.
Daniel 2, verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise.
Right, because this particular kingdom first started with Rome. That's that iron. That's what you're dealing with that statue. You're looking at the legs of that particular statue. That's what you're dealing with, that iron. Strong particular kingdom. Read on.
And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with merry clay.
So now, y'all, so you can go to the PowerPoint real quick. So now when you look at the particular aspect dealing with the feet were mixed. They were part clay, because an aspect where part iron and part clay, dealing with that, when you get down to America, because down when you get to the feet and the toes, that's the end of it. So the end of it is America. When you get down to the feet and the toes, it's now a situation where it's strong, but it's not as strong. Why is that with America? Because when you look at America and how they particularly choose to rule, they have aspects of strength. When you look at their military, their nuclear power, they're a force to still be feared and reckoned with. But they also have a lot of weaknesses, because now it's an aspect of all these different divisions, all these different dividing things where they still have nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Because here in America, it's okay for you to be gay. It's okay to be tranny. It's okay for you to worship whatever God you want to choose to worship. There's no set order. It's all about whatever it is you want to do. Freedom of religion, freedom of these things. This is what makes America weak. Whereas all other nations, they try to make sure, nah, you got to keep this. You got to do this. You got to operate this way. But America, they're the number one that's do whatever the hell you want to. Whatever you want to do. Whatever it is. Shoot, sister want to wear pants, let her wear pants. Brother want to shave his beard, let him shave his beard. Brother don't want to keep the Sabbath day worship, just don't do it. Do this. Do whatever as you please. And in the words of Alistair Crowley, hey, do what thou wilt. That's what he deals with in America. That's the standard of America. Do what thou wilt. But that's the same thing that makes it weak. As well as they bring all nations in. That's the other aspect. You got all these nations in here, and they do whatever the hell they want to do. They worship as they please, worship their gods as they please. Whereas you deal with other kingdoms, it was like, nah, it was nowhere near as loose as what America is. So they all kept a lot more order. So you got to, you got to worship this, shoot. Even just like with the Persian, you got to worship Baal and the dragon, all right? That's it. So let's go ahead and let's, without all of that. Yeah, continue reading.
And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken.
Just like I was dealing with, partly strong with America, but also partly broken, partly weak. Read on.
And as whereas thou sawest iron mixed with merry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another.
Going back to the mixing pot aspect. Mingle themselves, but will not cleave one to another, all right? Because even though you have all these nations, guess what? They still go back to their particular areas with their people. So you don't see all the nations mixed within your neighborhoods. They cleave into their people. They may do business in your neighborhood, but they go back to their people. That's when dealing with, even though they'll be mixed, but guess what? They ain't going to cleave one to another, all right? So go ahead and continue on with that. Verse 44.
Even as iron is not mixed with clay. In the days of these kings shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed.
And that's what the Most High is saying. Look, in the days of these kings, particularly that last kingdom, like we read in 2nd Ezra, the Most High, he's going to set up his kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. Read on.
And the kingdom shall not be left to another people.
Because the aspect where no more other kingdoms are going to come up and rule. Read.
But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
And it shall stand forever. Get Genesis 25, 23 to 26, because this is also why you have those feet and those toes. This is another reference. Get Genesis 25, 23 to 26.
The book of Genesis 25, verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Read on.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
So two people, two nations, two different mannerisms of people are going to be separated from thy bowels, that when these particular children go up and they have children, they're going to be into two separate people and they'll become nations within themselves. Read on.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
Because an aspect where the elder, being Esau, would serve the younger, Jacob. Read on.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red.
First came out what?
Came out red.
This is the other reason why you'll be able to identify this man in prophecy as well as real life, because he's red as hell, but also in prophecy because he's also depicting the scriptures as being that red man. Read on.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel.
Right, because that heel is very important, because that heel, that foot, that's what Esau is. He's that foot when it comes down to the kingdoms. He's that last one. All right, that's it. And then guess what? After that foot, who came out? Read on.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob.
Because that's it. After that foot, we coming. That's it. After that foot comes Jacob, comes Israel. All right. From there, let's go ahead. Let's go to Revelation 13, 1 through 2. And once again, these beasts are synonymous. All right. The same beast, the same creature. Get Revelation 13, verse 1 through 2.
Book of Revelations 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
So it says, I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is what we're going to get into. Read on and get verse 4.
And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Because the dragon gave power unto the beast, even though the dragon also is the beast. Get Revelation 12 and 3.
The book of Revelations 12, verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 horns, Salakia, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
So a great red dragon. This is Esau. That's why it's likened to a red dragon. It could have been any color. He could have said blue, green, yellow, magenta. He said no, red. Why? Because Esau is red. He is physically red. And it's knowing that this beast representing Esau is going to deal with all of his particular kingdoms of rulership. These are all going to be Edomite kingdoms. All right. That's what each one of these heads. A head is a power. So each one of these heads, each one of these powers is still going to be considered part of Esau, part of his overall kingdom. All right. All of that.
And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head.
Because when you go back and you read as far as verse 4, and it says, and they worship the dragon because the people here of America, here of the world, worship Satan, which gave power unto Esau, the beast. All right, in short. So let's go ahead and get Daniel 7, 7 through 8. Let's go back to Daniel.
Seven and 7. The book of Daniel 7 and verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth, and devour and break in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns.
And once again, those 10 horns representing those kingdoms or power of rulership. All right, read on.
I consider the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom So like before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and the mouth speaking great things.
Right, we'll come right back to that. So now this beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns, in short, is NATO, all right, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in short, dealing with Esau, 7 governments or kingdoms ruled by Esau. So this includes not only NATO, but includes other aspects of rulership. So it deals with Russia, all right? So you have Russia, you have the Romans, you have the French, you have the Spaniards, you have Germany, you have Great Britain, you have the Greeks. These are all these 7 heads, all right, that you read about in Revelation chapter 13. So these are the 7 heads in part where we'll go into those 10 horns. So what you read in Revelation chapter, as we were in Revelation chapter 13. So you're dealing with those 7 heads: Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain. All right. Let's go ahead and get Daniel 7 and 8 again.
Book of Daniel 7 and 8. I consider the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots.
So this little horn, in short, is America. All right. This is that last little one sprouting forth. Let me through. I'm coming. This is the last little one. All right. So on with it, where it deals with that before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. These are all Esau's kingdoms. All right. This is all dealing with Esau's rule. Go ahead, and there's a reason why. Get the slide out. Because once again, when now knowing this last horn is America, it's important to view this part of the map, because an aspect when dealing with America, what were the 3 main other tribes of Edom that America had to take out of power, or he had to subdue in order to fully get this land known as America? May you get the map out? Yash. Yashima, may you bring up the slide? Thank you. So once again, when you're looking at America, these are the ones that you're dealing with. Let me get my power pointer. All right. So you're dealing with France right here. They had a big foothold in America, right? You're also dealing with Great Britain over here, right? And then you're also dealing with Spain down here. These were the 3 that had to be subdued. These were the 3 when you read Daniel chapter 7 and 8, and when it says there came up among them another little horn, because America was coming up. And then it says, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. These were the ones that had to be brought into subjection, all right? That, let's go ahead and let's get that. At what point in times were these 3 taken into subjection? Let's deal with France. Go ahead and read that.
New France, French Empire in America.
So we're dealing with France, the French Empire. Read.
Its decline began almost at once. The English and their American colonists were to conquer all New France.
All New France is the foothold in America that France had. Read.
But it was done in 2 stages. The first ended in 1713 with the conclusion of the War of the Spanish Succession. In 1710, Acadia had been seized again by the British, but in the next year, an English expedition under Sir Hadovin Walker suffered serious losses along the St. Lawrence River and returned home. Most of the fighting was done in Europe. However, and the English victories were enable them. Salakia. English victories there enable them by the Treaty of, what is that? Utrecht. That concluded the war to recover Hudson Bay, limit French rights in Newfoundland, force the secession of Acadia without Cape Breton Island, and to get a larger foothold in the western fur trade.
Now pay very close attention to this last paragraph. Read.
In 1756, the 7 Years' War in Europe began, and the American face of this conflict, the French and Indian War, was to settle the fate of New France. For 2 years, the French troops and Canadian militia were victorious. Then the British and American strength, fed by British sea power, began to tell. In 1758, Louisbourg fell. In 1759, James Wolfe captured Quebec. And in 1760, Montreal surrendered to Geoffrey Amherst, and with it all of New France.
That's how one of those horns was taken out, all right? That's how one was plucked up. So let's continue on and get the next one. Let's get New Spain, because all these parts include or deal with America, deal with that little horn, that little baby horn. So that virgin daughter Babylon. But let's get New Spain, the Spanish Empire in America. All right, read that.
1806, the USA attacks Viceroy.
Asked
the Viceroy to remove his Spanish troops from New Orleans and Louisiana, so that it came to take possession of the area upon the river Sabine. The Viceroy agrees and the troops are removed. By this stage, New Spain already encompassed Mexico plus Arizona, California, parts of Florida, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, and areas of Colorado, Oregon, and Wyoming.
Right. And now with those particular states, does New Spain still have control over those things? Nope. So it's an aspect, what did America have to do? He had to subdue them. All right. So at first, he was asking, may you take your foot off of my land, please? Read on.
Spain did not lose her last foothold in the Americas until the Spanish-American War in 1898.
And then he says, look, I'm forcing you now. I didn't ask you, ain't moved fast enough. I got to get you up out of here. It's been enough time. All right. So, and that's how they got pretty much taken out, or how that other horn got plucked. All right. Let's get the other one, of course, with Great Britain's 13 colonies, right? We can't forget that one. Go ahead and read that.
The loss of Britain's 13 American colonies in 1776 to 83. The American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, also known as the American War of Independence, was a war between the Kingdom of Great Britain and 13 British colonies of the North American continent, as well as some naval conflict. The war was the culmination of the political American Revolution, whereby the colonists overthrew British rule.
And that's it, overthrew British rule. So now that little horn is free. It's all good. Let's get Daniel 7 and 8, all right?
Daniel 7, verse 8. I consider the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots.
So now you guys get how all those 3 horns were plucked up by the roots? They were all removed from America. He said, look, I got to subdue all of y'all. Y'all ain't got no place in this land. All right, go ahead.
And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and a mouth speaking great things.
So eyes like the eyes of man, because how does, when you're dealing with the eyes of man, what are you dealing with? Get 1 John 2 and 16.
Book of 1 John 2, verse 16. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes.
The what?
The lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes.
That's the biggest thing is dealing with. Because once again, dealing with those eyes, anything America set his eyes on, anything Esau set his eyes on, he said, I want that. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. And what did he bring forth? Manifest destiny. It's my destiny to conquer all of this land. Y'all Native American got to go. This is my destiny. You getting in the way. So everything, the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, that's what it's dealing with when you go back and you're reading in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8, when it said, behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of man. All right, that's what you're dealing with, because with man's eyes on the negative end, he's lustful. I want this. I want that. So both man and woman, but mankind, we want things. What we see, we want. So Esau, in this case, he saw it. You want it, I got it. I'm going to get it. So that's how you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with those eyes. Go back to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 25.
Book of Daniel 8, verse 25. And through his policy.
Through his what?
And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper.
Because this is what you read in the other part when it says, a mouth speaking great things. He's doing this through his policy. all right, through his politics. Read on.
And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
He causes craft or problem. This is all witchcraft. Gay is okay. Transgender, we fighting for them. Read on.
To prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
Because now with these things, he's doing it peaceably. He's just passing laws. Man. That's all he's doing. Look, by peace. Well, we're all people. We're all human. Don't you just want to be accepted? We don't want to discriminate. By peace, he's destroying many. That's how he's doing it. He's doing it all through peace. Read on.
And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
Because this is all he's doing, speaking great things, saying this is Christ, saying that's Jesus, saying all the Israelites is white. You know, I'm Jewish. That's me. I mean, and it's seriously, that Edomites argue, Christ is white. I've watched the Passion of the Christ. How could you tell me differently? And just fully believe it. This is, once again, dealing with this man. This is what he believes. This is his wishful thinking, all right? And wishful thinking, once again, isn't what the reality of the situation is, but what you want it to be, rather, all right? So let's go ahead and let's get Daniel chapter 7 and verse 9.
Daniel 7 and verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire.
Because the Ancient of Days is the Most High. Read on.
A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him.
Right, because these are all the heavenly hosts that stand before him. Read on.
The judgment was set, and the books were opened.
Because the judgment of this man in this kingdom is already set. Read on.
I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame.
Because that beast, that kingdom, Esau, he's going to be killed. He's going to get murked off.
That's right.
He's going to get murked off, all right? An aspect where he's going to be slain, and then he's going to be, all his people are going to be destroyed, all right? Because they're going into that lake of fire. That's the judgment dealing with them. Read on.
As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away.
See that? Because they had a short rule, and their dominion, their power was taken away. Read on.
Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
Right, because just because the dominion was taken away, that doesn't mean the Most High off them. You know, just dealing with that they're taken out of power, out of rulership. All right. Read on.
I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like unto the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Because
it's an aspect where Christ came to the Ancient of Days. He came to the Most High. Read on.
And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him.
Because all people, no matter what language they speak, no matter where they are, they're going to have to serve Christ. All right, because even though at the end of the day they're serving the Most High, they're serving him, but the Most High is giving everything unto his son, Mashiach Yahushai, that he's the chief ruler. He's the one standing forth. He's the one that's going to be ruling, all right? And we're going to be rulers underneath him. So everything is going to be an aspect of rulership. You got the Most High, you got Christ, you got that 144,000, you got all Israel, both man, woman, children, and then you got the heathen and the rest of the world, all right? So, because we're the mediators between the other nations and Christ, all right? Because we're that priesthood. So, let's go ahead with all that. Verse 14, continue.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed.
It's an everlasting kingdom. That's what we got coming, if we endure, because it's Like one of the things, it's coming, but that doesn't necessarily mean you gonna be there. All right. So that's the key thing. It's coming to Israel by default, but that don't mean you gonna be there. So let's get 27 and 28. Verse 27 and 28.
Verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
Right, because that's coming to us. The Most High said, look, for all the sacrifices you made, all those long sleepless nights, all them times studying, all that time you trying to get it right, you trying to bow the friends, and you getting tired and frustrated and sad and all this other stuff. He said, look, it's all going to be worth that at the end of the day. Just endure a little longer. You ain't really going through nothing. It's just a little season, you know. It ain't going to even account to the amount of blessing that I have stored up to you, you know, because we deal with, and, you know, just my to bring it all the time, you know, an aspect where our current affliction, it cannot compare to the amount of blessing that we're going to get. It's something small, you know, but as far as we're going to get a much, much bigger blessing that you can't even put in comparison to your current suffering. All right, get with all that in verse 28, read that.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him.
You in 27?
That was 27.
Read 28.
Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much trouble me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart.
But I kept the matter in my heart. All right. So with that, real quick check on learning. You got a mic out there? All right. So who does the four great beasts, or should I say the four great beasts represent what? Can someone tell me the four great beasts represent what? All right. Can anybody tell me? Go ahead. Oh, you got the mic? Go ahead. I'll make you pass the mic. Raise your hand, who could tell it? Oh, go ahead.
The four great beasts represent kingdoms, being the Babylonian kingdom, which is the lion with the wings. The second beast was the Persian and Medes, which was the bear with the ribs. The third kingdom was the Grecians, which was, I don't remember the similitude, but the fourth kingdom was the leopard, yeah. And the fourth kingdom is the goat or the ram.
So you're actually dealing with
America,
but you're dealing with the great dreadful beast,
right?
But in aspect where dealing with the dragon, you know, there's many different similitudes that was up there. But yeah, in short, the four great beasts represent kings and kingdoms. All right. So the lion. Well, shoot, you can pass on some. The lion represented what kingdom? All right, maybe someone else wasn't paying attention. The lion represented what kingdom? Go ahead.
The U.S., right?
The lion?
Yeah. Oh, the lion. The lion
The
itself?
lion.
Oh, Christ.
Nah, the lion represented what kingdom when we're dealing with the four beasts? Babylon. All right. What chapter was the lesson on?
Chapter 7.
Y'all can say it.
Daniel chapter 7.
All right. 7. There we go. All right. So Daniel chapter 7. So with that being said, any questions? All right. Any questions of me? All right. That's in the mic.
All right, so for sure, officially, the three little horns were New Spain, pretty much New Britain or the 13 colonies, and then New France. Mm-hmm. Okay, what were the other? What's 10 minus 3? What were the other 7 horns? 6 horns.
Mm-hmm. What are the other horns? The horns in short. When you go back to it, it goes back to what we're dealing with in Revelations, as far as dealing with NATO and the areas that, in short, it's all Esau. But as far as dealing with the heads, like we did with Rome, Spain, France, Great Britain, you know, as far as with those, all of the horns are just still their, what are you dealing with? Like the EEC in short. That's what it is, the European Economic Community. So that's what the 10 horns are. So as far as dealing with Belgium and Luxembourg and, you know, those particular areas, all right?
So NATO / the EEUC?
Yeah, NATO / the EEC, or the European Economic Community, all right? So that's when it's short with the 10 horns, because it's all Esau. All right. Anything else? All right, well, that's it. Class is, that's it. It's over. But, all right, with that, we go ahead, stand and rise and face the east. Madim, Wapaya, Yerushalayim. Oh, announcements. We got any?